everyone. Welcome to YUCI Talks. I'm your host, Angela Crockett. And before we get started, the Youth United Council of India wants to send its heartfelt congratulations and cheers to the new United Kingdom's Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. Best wishes to you, sir. And how apropos that one of our guests today, Rory Moore, is and lives in the United Kingdom. Rory is absolutely amazing young man. He has been described by the former UK Prime Minister as an inspiration and a testament to the power of youth. He received the Point of Light honor from the former Prime Minister for creating the world's largest COVID-19 volunteering organization. He's a Forbes 30 Under 30 recipient, UK's Youth Parliament member, Royal Society of Arts Fellow, and he has been a keynote speaker on 4 continents. Rory Moore, my God, wow, what amazing accolades. Welcome to YUCI Talks, it's good to see you.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here and had the pleasure of meeting with Amal, the founder of YUCI, when I was in India a few weeks ago, and the mission of the organization really resonates with me, and really looking forward to this conversation. Thanks, Angela.
Absolutely, that's right. You one of the lucky ones who've had the opportunity to meet the man in hiding. He always hides. I keep saying to him, Rory, one day we're going to have him as a guest on the show, but he keeps telling me, no, not yet. Rory, wow. So your life has been it's been a magical story. Tell us, and you're a very young man. I mean, I don't want to put your age out there unless you allow me to, but you're very young, and your accomplishments are major. They're colossal. Tell us about the little boy. Who is Rory Moore, the little boy, and take us up to this moment if you can.
Sure. So I think you're right. Yeah, I'm quite young, but what I found is that one opportunity really leads to another, and one door opens another. So my journey in impact, if you want to call it that, actually started back when I was 16 years old. I attended the local youth council in the town where I live in the southeast of England, which is essentially a forum where young people come together to discuss what issues matter to them in the local area, in the community where they live. And that really, as a platform, made me understand and appreciate that there's a lot of problems in our society, and tackling them is really important. So starting at a local level, I used that as a platform to then be elected to the UK Youth Parliament, as you say, and took my journey in advocacy from there, meeting with members of the government, lobbying on the behalf of young people to make sure that our interests were represented in policy in the UK. And then when the pandemic started, of course, wanted to do something positive to make an impact and help out others. So started an organization to connect volunteers with people who needed help in my town, and then scaled that up to 40 countries around the world. So never intended to create a global organization, but it just happened by design, because I wanted to make sure that we could help as many people as possible during what was a really challenging time. And then really used that as a platform to other advisory work. So when I got the award from the Prime Minister, he asked me to advise the government on volunteering strategy in the UK. And then since then, I've worked with a number of different organizations, both corporate and non-profit, to really help them understand how to engage with young people and why they should do it, and also how to make an impact on society. So what I would say is that it is true, you're right, I'm still young, but I think I've been very lucky, and one opportunity has led to another. So it's really a pleasure to be involved in all the things I do.
Yeah, well, I don't know if the word is lucky. I think you have prepared for this, and certainly your talents and gifts and brilliance are something that is not to be looked at and taken very lightly. Take us here, Rory, and we'll get into your the meat and potatoes of what you're doing at this very, very moment. But for our listeners, for our viewers, I don't know what your upbringing is. I know that the masses of people that will hear this, the young people, they come from a very up and down environment, some tough environments and situations where it's very difficult to achieve anything positive, or great results. And some of them take left turns. from your mind, from who you are and your voice as a young man, what would you say to those people who are faced with those challenges and how they can overcome and how to stay focused on the mission or whatever that project or dream that that person has? Please.
Of course, I think it's a really important point you make, that everyone has different upbringing, different opportunities to do different things. And so I think when I speak to young people at schools and colleges around Europe, the one thing I always say is find something you're passionate about. If you want to make a difference, don't just do it for the sake of making a difference. Rather, find something you're passionate about, because the truth is, being an entrepreneur or focusing on in the impact space is not easy. You face a number of challenges. So if you choose a course you're not passionate about, or that isn't quite what you want to do, and you're just doing it for the sake of it, then quite often people won't carry through, because they'll face obstacles and they won't have the passion that carries them through, right? You know, if you have that motivation and you care about making a difference, and it's a cause that you're really, passionate about, then that will help you to make a difference. But what I would say is that, of course, it's true that lots of people have other things in life, other challenges, other struggles to face. And so not everyone is able to commit to doing impact. I was really lucky to have a really nice upbringing and really supportive parents. But of course, that's not the case for everyone. And that's why I'm now, which I'm sure we'll talk about, focusing on education, because I want to pay forward the experiences I've had and support other people and give them the platform and give them the skills so that they can make an impact in their own lives as well. So it's, of course, challenging, and everyone faces different circumstances. But my number one message would be to young people who want to make a difference, well, find a cause you're passionate about, and don't necessarily think you have to create a global organization, right? Even if you impact one person or two people, that's still a net contribution that's positive to your community, right? So just because other people are doing things on a big scale with lots of resources doesn't mean that you can't make impact. If there's something you're passionate about, you're living in a town, you're living in a village or in a city, there's anywhere you are, you can make an impact, whether it's one person, whether it's 100 people, right? So I would say start small, and if you have something that works, then you can scale it. But find something you're passionate about, and don't feel that you can't make an impact, because the truth is anyone can do something positive as long as they put their mind to it.
Absolutely. That's fantabulous. Great advice. I love to ask this question. Who's been your biggest inspiration?
It's a really good question, actually. I'd say I don't have any one particular person that I look at and say that person is the person I look up to, or that's the person I've modeled myself upon. I think, as I briefly touched on earlier, I've been really lucky to have a very supportive upbringing in my family and have both my parents around to help me out. And I suppose ultimately, they're the ones who I've always used as sounding boards for my ideas. They've always been there to support me when things are tough and give me that confidence. So whilst they're not in impact space or in politics, I think I can still look up to them as role models. They're committed to what they do in their own lives, and they have a great respect for me and supporting me in what I want to do. And so I think that just empowers me, right? If you have that support network and if you have those people you can talk to when things are tough, that gives you the confidence to be able to do something positive. And so I'd say they're probably the people who I would like to model myself upon and draw inspiration from, even though they're not doing the same thing as me. I think they're still ultimately the role models that shape me to who I am today, right? Because that's how I've grown up.
Wow, awesome. That's beautiful to hear. What legacy? Now, one would read your bio. They say, oh my God, everything that he's already accomplished is legacy. I can't imagine what he's going to do by the time he's 30, 40, 50. What would you like to achieve, or what legacy would you like to leave for others generationally, to when they hear the name Rory Moore, what do they think?
So the first thing I would say is that I don't want it to be about me. I don't want it to be that people say Rory Moore and they think, oh, he did this. Rather, it's the actions and the impact that I've left that people think of as a legacy on the world, rather than as me as a person. But in terms of what I want to achieve and the impact I want to create, I'd say that my work to date, what's motivated me is not, getting this award or speaking at this conference or doing that. I think it's more about, as I said at the start, making an impact on my community, whether that's in the town where I live, whether that's in Europe, whether that's on the world, right? So I think as I go forward and continue my professional journey and look at what I want to achieve and what legacy I want to leave behind, it again continues to be motivated by impact. And of course, it's hard to quantify that and say arbitrarily that I want to help, 500 people or 1 million people. I think it's just about making sure that I stay true to my values as well, and that what I do is always motivated by wanting to make a difference and not something else, right? So I think as I look towards that legacy, I've got a long time to build it, luckily. But as I said, it's not really something that I want to be personalized and I don't want to be famous for me as a person. I'd rather that my actions are what I'm defined by, right? So I guess it's more about the achievements rather than the name recognition.
And I guess being of service, making the world a better place is what you want your legacy to be, even though your name is going to be synonymous, Rory Moore, with what you have accomplished. And I get it. And that's humble and commendable, and I respect that wholeheartedly, because that's what life is all about, Rory. And for you to understand that now is, well, absolutely, your resume speaks of that. But that's amazing, because a lot of younger people don't quite get that. It is about them, or their values are in a very different place. And this is, one of the things that I enjoy about this platform of YUCI Talks. I don't know if I enjoy it, but it's rewarding. I guess that's the best word, where we can reach many young people and other people who support, obviously, the organization, but definitely to motivate and inspire young people the best that we can. That's my absolute motto. That's what I live by, is, for helping young people fulfill their destiny and their purpose in life. You, young man, have just come back from, you've been all over the place. You were in India, and you just recently came back from Dubai. You were a moderator, am I correct, at the Future Innovation Summit. That's a major highlight. That's huge. Tell us all about that experience.
Yeah, so I was very lucky actually to spend a couple of weeks in Dubai moderating at that summit, and also speaking at another one about corporate social responsibility. And I think, of course, again, this is a case of, as I said at the start, that one opportunity leads to another. Being connected to one person means you can then be connected to another who offers you opportunities. So I suppose the message or the takeaway from that is to other people that think, well, how is that possible? How do you get there? Well, really, you just have to work hard. And I think to some extent, you create your own opportunities. Of course, there's luck involved, but also, continuing to network and building out your connections in a certain space, and also having, working hard to have achievements that you can talk about as well. I think, of course, there's luck involved, but at the same time, it's also about creating opportunities. I mean, in terms of the summit itself, it was really interesting, actually, because we were talking about, as you say, innovation and new technologies. And I think, of course, this is how the world is changing. If you look how much the world has changed in the past 20, 30 years in light of technologies. For example, we wouldn't be recording this conversation on the internet, on Google Meets. That just wouldn't be happening 20, 30 years ago. And so it's really exciting to now be talking about even newer technologies that can cause even bigger disruption. I'm working in the education space, and hearing about some of the opportunities that we can use technology in education at this conference was really exciting. So, and we were also talking about the panel I was moderating was about how we can use digital technologies in our cities to make them more sustainable. And again, there's just so many applications of technology that can have a really positive impact. So it was really exciting to be involved with that conference, and also meet lots of other people who are doing fantastic work in the innovation space. So it was a really good opportunity to be there, and I had a really good time.
That's awesome. Congratulations to you for that. Now, let's talk about what you're doing now in your organization, and or any future plans that you have, the immediate future.
Sure. So I'm currently working on building a venture in the education space, education technology specifically. And really, I think the angle that we're coming from is that the education system in its current state, all around the world, not just in the UK or in India, doesn't really set people up with the skills they need for the 21st century, right? It's a very traditional and theoretical approach to education. And both young people and recruiters alike are saying that actually the 21st century workplace requires people to have more soft skills, which you don't learn at school, whether that's things like public speaking, critical thinking, leadership. All these skills are vital in the workplace, but you're expected to sort of just magically have them when you leave university and go into the workplace. So we're looking at how we can actually make sure that young people get these skills, but also broader life skills, things like financial literacy, how to pay your taxes, digital literacy, how to use these new technologies that are coming along, because these things are fundamental to life, but our education system is not giving us these tools to understand and deal with these different problems. So I think it's really about trying to address those problems and update education for the 21st century.
Wow, excellent. Will you be reaching out to young people respectively to join the movement, or tell us a little more on how you want to roll this out?
Sure. So, for example, when I was both in India and Dubai, I was talking with some really exciting organizations and individuals who work in the education space or work with young people. And we've already had lots of positive discussions around forming partnerships for implementing our programs. So we've talked to, for example, youth organizations. We've also talked to foundations, all sorts of organizations that work with young people, both in India and different parts of the world. And so we're looking to partner with these different organizations to create an impact, right? And that's the thing, because we want to do this on a global level, because the problem is of a global nature. It's not just a UK problem. It's not just an Indian problem. Mm-hmm. The fact is that education everywhere needs to be updated for the 21st century. So we're looking to leverage the global partnerships. But also the other thing to say is that, as I mentioned with the work I did during the pandemic, I was able to create a really good global network. And although the pandemic is in many cases now receding, it's still important to use that network that I built for good rather than just letting it go. So I wanted to leverage that and use those connections in 40 countries to actually make a positive impact on education, which is so crucial to everyone's future.
Wow. Yeah, you're all inspiring, Rory. And this happened the first time I spoke with you. And I know the last time I spoke with you, I got off scratching my head, just like, wow, this young man is absolutely amazing. And let me tell you, my jaw doesn't drop to the floor easily. So I will let you know that you did have my jaw on the ground there. So, next question for you, Rory. Where do you, and I know this kind of ties into the legacy, but where do you personally see yourself in a few years?
Well, I think as we mentioned earlier, I'm still young, and there's still a lot of opportunities and different things that are going to happen in the next few years. So I wouldn't want to define it too carefully, but I think I want to continue, as I mentioned, in vis-a-vis the legacy, working on impact. And so in a few years' time, of course, the truth is I've still got a lot of things to learn, a lot of things to work on. So there's a personal development angle there, right? In the sense that I've still got so many things and so many experiences that I can leverage and actually grow my own skills, because I'm not the finished article as an entrepreneur or in the impact space. So I think one thing is recognizing that journey is going to involve a lot of learning, and I've still got a lot to improve. More specifically and concretely on where I see myself, I think I do see myself continuing to work in the entrepreneurial space, partly because if you look at a model of marginal impact, this is what I always think about. If you join a big corporate organization, of course, it offers you the financial stability, it gives you a secure job. But at the same time, I've been motivated in the work that I've done by impact. And if I don't join that organization or that company, they'll find someone who does exactly the same thing. They'll replace you with no problem. But if you do something where you can deliver a marginal impact, whereas where you don't do it, if you weren't to do it, then no one else would, then that is what I find more rewarding, actually being able to say, this is something that I've done and this is the impact I've had, rather than just being another part of a big organization. So I think that's one of the things that motivates me. So where I see myself is continuing to be in that space, continuing to make impact, but also continuing to learn, because of course it's important to recognize that no one's perfect and everyone always can take something from the experiences they have.
No one's perfect, and we're all learning. And Roy, we continue to learn. I think that's all part of life, continuing to learn. Because just when you think you have it, here comes something else to show you, there's another way of looking at a situation, or another way to rearm or reposition oneself. I think the goal is, and I think you're focused on that and concise where you know what you want to accomplish as far as making this social impact and inspiring other young people to follow suit. That's incredible. And personally, I see in a few years that you'll be then touched many lives, many more lives than you have already touched, young and old. What would you like to say the biggest challenges have been in your life in this pursuit of social impact?
I'd say there are two things. I think firstly, when you're working in the social impact space, one of the biggest challenges is that it's never, and this applies probably to lots of different things, but the journey is not linear. You know, as you referred to earlier, there's lots of ups and downs, there's lots of challenges. In fact, sorry, you were referring into another conversation you had I was watching, and you know, you recognise that the path is not. There's a lot of peaks and troughs as you describe it, and so of course, being especially in the social impact space, there's a lot of challenges you face, and you have to be in reality very perseverant. You have to be resilient to overcome those challenges. So on one level, that challenge manifests itself in everything you do, because you know, for example, balancing that commitment with, you know, I was, for example, studying at university until recently and working on a few social impact projects, managing my time. That's a big challenge because, of course, I want to be committed to the project because it's important to me, it's important to my values, it's important to my community. But at the same time, I had to get my degree, right? So one of the challenges is just finding the time to make that happen. Another challenge I'd say is around funding. In the nonprofit space, it's actually very hard to get the money to make things happen, of course, compared to the private sector working on a for-profit initiative. A lot easier to raise investment when the return on investment is in money and not in impact. So that's another challenge I would mention. And broadly, I think it's just, there's multi-challenges you face. And also, you know, as I mentioned, having offers when I left university to join these corporate organizations, which offer a nice salary, they offer a comfortable job. That's fantastic. But one of the challenges I faced as well, is this really what I want to do? And making the decision to not take those offers and to build something myself, which delivers marginal impact, as I mentioned, wasn't an easy choice. And one of the challenges was, well, you know, what do I want to do, but actually what's in my best interests? What's going to give me the stability I need? I'm only young. I've still got, you know, still making my way in life. So on a more functional level, it's just navigating through those complexities and facing those different challenges. I think it hasn't been easy, but of course, everyone faces different challenges in life, and I think it'd be wrong to say, and also be wrong to expect that everything will be a pleasant, straight journey with no bumps in the road, because in reality, everyone's going to fail. And as long as you have a positive attitude towards that and are ready to embrace it and acknowledge that it's going to happen, then I think that's fine. So lots of challenges, but at the same time, everything you can learn from. So I think that's the one key thing I'd say.
Awesome. That's courageous, be able to make that decision and not be swayed away from what you feel is your calling, for that carrot that was dangling. Hats off to you for that. A lot of people, that would be a very difficult decision to make. How do you stay self-motivated?
It's a good question, and something that people ask me a lot. And actually, I think, again, now my answer might be sounding repetitive because I refer to impact and everything. But what motivates me is impact. Because, for example, when I said I was facing those difficulties of balancing my degree with and the time commitments with doing impact, what motivated me was knowing that actually the work I was doing was crucial and it was delivering an impact to people's lives, right? Whether that was through the COVID volunteering project or other things I was working on. I knew that the work that I was doing was having a positive impact on someone else. And so for me not doing it, or me sort of thinking, oh, you know, today I can't really be bothered, that was going to have a consequence or knock-on effect on someone else. So I knew that's not something I could do. So I'm constantly motivated to continue in my work, knowing that people are relying on it, it's making a difference. And also that's what's fulfilling for me, right? So I think with all those combination of things, that's what motivates me to keep going and knowing that I'm actually going to make a difference through the work that I do.
Awesome. This is my cliche question. What would Rory do? Would he could do one thing, two things, three things to change the world, or to change something that you've done in life that you could go back and, you know, rewind and start anew? What would that be?
So I think one thing I could change generally in the world, I think I'll tackle that and then the personal aspect of it. I think on a global level, the one thing and this is the space I'm working in, so of course I'm passionate about it, is around education. So I was very lucky to be able to go to good school and be able to go to good university. But of course, I recognize that there are so many people across the world who don't have those opportunities or don't even get the opportunity to have much education at all. And the truth is that education is so key to a success in life, because that early stage defines what follows next, right? What job you get and what leads on from that. And so that's where there's the scope for the biggest impact. And that's why I'm working in that area. Of course, I can't myself change education or lift people out of poverty around the world with the click of a finger, but I can do something to contribute towards that. And I think that's really important, because as I say, the education you get will then determine the following steps, and that will determine a lot of the success in your life. So that's one thing on a global level that if I could change anything, I would focus on education. And I am focusing on it, of course, but I can't change it single-handedly, but I can make an impact. Personally, if there was something that I could go back and do differently, I don't think there's not something per se that I would do differently, but it's more a mindset thing. I think at the start, when I was working in the impact space, there were a lot of challenges, and quite often I thought that maybe I was doing something wrong or I wasn't cut out for it. And truth is, there were lots of times where it was tempting to give up. But if I could go back and have someone telling me that, of course, that's the journey, and that's what it looks like, and actually these failures make me more resilient, there are things you can learn from that, that would have saved me a lot of stress, anxiety, and uncertainty. So I think just knowing and having that mindset and knowing that failure happens and that actually it's all part of the journey, I think that would have been really helpful for me. And that's why now when I go around the UK and other parts of the world and talk to young people, whether they're at school, whether they're at university, I say, look, it's important to make an impact in your communities, but at the same time, don't expect that it's going to just be, a straight journey. And actually, it's important to know that it's not going to be easy, and it will be challenging, because the worst thing is if people think it's going to be easy and something goes wrong and then they give up because that impact then doesn't happen. So I think it's a mindset thing. And if I could go back, to starting my impact journey again, it would just be knowing that it's not going to be a linear journey. I think that's one of the things I would say.
Wow. Bravo. Where can people find you, Rory, and keep up with what you are doing?
So the best way for people to follow my work is on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. People, if you search Rory Moore, I think it should be one of the ones that comes up near the top. So that's the best thing. I'm also on Twitter, but I don't really update it. But if anyone wants to find me on Twitter, it's at Rory A. Moore. But yeah, the best way to follow my work is on LinkedIn. And also I'm very active there. So if people want to reach out, ask for advice or get help on their own impact journeys, I'm always happy to help anyone. So people should feel free to message me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to assist them with their work.
Fabulous. And last question for you, Rory. If there's something I haven't asked, a question I haven't asked, and that comes to your mind that you would like to share, please do. But last question, what advice would you give that person or persons that is looking to follow the road that you have chosen? And you hit some really powerful points, self-motivated, knowing that it's not an easy journey, it's an uphill battle. Is there anything else that you can think of that can spark that person, that they don't give up, that they continue, and maybe they don't have a good support system? What can you offer that person from your space and from your challenges, or thinking outside the box, that could help not necessarily make the job easier? Because sometimes what's easy is not always best. Those challenges and uphill battles really create us and make and birth out the best in us, and the best ideas are born through challenges. But what would you say to that person in closing to get through that hurdle, and also anything else that you feel that I have not asked you, but that you feel that is necessary to share?
Sure. So I think there are a few things that I mentioned along the way, but something that I didn't say is around the power of networking. So I think what I found is that there's so many people who I've connected with or interacted with who have been useful in some way that I wasn't expecting. And so I know quite a few people have quite a closed mind when it comes to networking, or think that it's not for them, or it's not really something they want to do, or they're not confident. And to be honest, I'm tended to be quite an introverted person. And so for me, networking wasn't something that came to me naturally. But I, tried to improve my confidence and meet people. But the one thing I found is that there's so many people who you meet who you think, okay, that I don't really see a synergy, but let's have a conversation. And then a few months down the line, you realize that's the person I need to talk about this, or they might be able to help me with that. And so actually trying to have a positive interaction or a positive mindset towards every interaction is really important. So whenever you meet someone, whether personally or professionally, don't think, oh, I don't know if I want to make time for that person. I'm not sure that I should speak to them, because everyone you speak to is good, because then you expand your network and you never know when that person's going to come in use for you or for them. So I think networking is a really good thing. Regardless of where you are, there's always someone you can meet and never know who that person will introduce you to as well. So it's a great way of expanding your network and creating impact. The other things I would say is, as I mentioned previously, find something you're passionate about, because I know that the journey is not going to be always a linear one, because if you find something you're passionate about, you're going to be more motivated to keep working at that when the challenges come. And if you know the challenge is going to come as well, then that won't knock you back. And finally, when it comes to creating impact, I've seen a lot of people try and do something, with the wrong idea. We're trying to receive an award or get the credibility or do it for their CV or build a global organization. So if you have the right motivation, if it's something you're genuinely passionate about, and you start at a local level, and when you have a model that works in a town or a city, then you can expand it. Don't try and do everything at once globally, because quite often those things fall apart quite quickly. So there's a lot of pieces of advice there, but the key message I have is to find something that you're passionate about, stick at it, and make sure your model works before you expand it. And if you follow those steps, then you will definitely be very successful in creating impact.
Excellent advice. Wow, Rory, thank you for that. And as always, it's enjoyable speaking with you, and your motivation and your confidence it's oozing out of your pores, and it's contagious. I don't see how anyone could possibly meet you and not want to just jump on board and hop on with you and just follow you into the sunset there. Thank you for that, and thank you for that advice, because that is something I wish too. Many moons ago, somebody would have shared with me, because that flight is not easy. It's not the times that you're winning that's the best. It's the times when you're losing, and how you reposition, and how you have don't give up and keep persevering, and resilience, and all of that matters. And that's the stuff you can't be taught. You just have to have that grit to just want to stay the course. And you certainly, have been able to share that with our viewers. Any other last thoughts?
No, I think those are the key things in terms of the takeaways from my work and the messages I give to young people when I speak to them. I think those the things I touched on there, the tips for creating impact are the most important things that people should take away. And as I say, having the mindset is half of everything. It's not just about the resources or the connections you have, but having the right approach and doing things for the right reason, but also knowing that things aren't going to work out. That's crucial. So it's not just about having the right skills or the right connections, but also just the way in which you think about things. That's so crucial nowadays, given all the challenges we face as young people. So as long as people have the right approach and the right understanding of how difficult it's going to be, then I think that's the good grounding to have.
That's the key to success. Rory, we thank you so much. Again, he said he's active on LinkedIn. You type in his name, Rory Moore, and he should pop up, and you can keep up with all the fantastic work that he's doing. I certainly will be keeping up with all the fantastic work he's doing. And definitely, we here at the Youth United Council of India certainly support you, and we're looking forward to further dialogue with you concerning your future endeavors. We wish you the best. I don't like to say luck, because I think that luck is really preparation. You have prepared. So best wishes to you, Rory, and we thank you for your time. And we look forward to maybe talking to you again down the road a piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to everyone who's put it together. It's a great pleasure to share my experiences.
Awesome. Well, everyone, there you have it. We have just spoken with Rory Moore, who is an absolutely amazing young man. I know I have been inspired by him. I hope you have as well. And as far as we are concerned here at the YUCI Talks and Youth United Council of India, Our website should be up soon. It's under construction. I'm looking forward to seeing it because I've been told it's really going to be really exciting. But until next time, and we're all on LinkedIn too. United Council's on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so you can keep up with us there. So again, everyone, thank you so much for your time. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have been inspired by his amazing message. And until next time, until next week, create an awesome week for yourself. Ciao.